There is a moment in every internet celebrity's rise when the performance stops feeling entertaining and starts feeling dangerous. For Clavicular, that moment may have come on Tuesday night. 1 minute, he was live streaming to an audience that has watched him build an entire persona around perfection, controversy, and shock. The next, the stream abruptly cut off, panic spread online, and videos surfaced appearing to show him being carried toward a car as emergency responders arrived. By the end of the night, one of the internet's most polarizing young influencers had reportedly been hospitalized after a suspected overdose. And suddenly, what once looked like edgy internet spectacle was being seen in a much darker light. For a lot of people, Clavicular is more than just another streamer. His real name is Braden Peters, but online he became known for something much more extreme than gaming, comedy, or even controversy alone. He built his identity around looksmaxxing, a trend that has exploded across corners of the internet, especially among young men obsessed with appearance, status, and self-image. On the surface, looksmaxxing can sound harmless: grooming better, dressing sharper, improving fitness, learning how to present yourself. But the world Clavicular helped push was never just about basic self-improvement. It drifted into something much more intense, much more obsessive, and for many critics, much more dangerous. Because in Clavicular's version of that world, beauty was not just a goal. It was a fixation. It was a hierarchy. It was a belief system. And over time, he became one of the most recognizable and controversial faces associated with the extreme side of that culture. The side that glorifies harsh, risky, and even physically harmful methods in pursuit of supposedly ideal facial structure and attractiveness. The side that turns insecurity into content. The side that feeds off young audiences who are already vulnerable, already anxious, and already desperate to feel seen. That is what makes what happened this week feel bigger than a single medical emergency. Because when someone whose online brand is built on control, image, and extreme self-optimization suddenly ends up in a hospital bed, the illusion cracks. And when that same person later posts from home, describing substances as a way of coping and trying to feel neurotypical in public, the conversation changes completely. What looked from the outside like arrogance, performance, or provocation begins to reveal something else underneath, something fragile, unstable, and deeply human. According to reports, Clavicular was hospitalized in stable condition Tuesday night after what was described as a suspected overdose. He was reportedly released from the hospital the following day. But long before people saw his post after returning home, concern had already exploded online. Earlier that day, he had been live streaming on Kick when the broadcast suddenly cut off. For fans and critics alike, the sudden disappearance was alarming. In internet culture, people are used to chaos, meltdowns, stunts, and drama. But this felt different. It did not feel like content anymore. It felt like something was seriously wrong. Then came the videos. Clips shared online appeared to show Clavicular being carried by several people toward a black car as an ambulance arrived on the scene. And just like that, the speculation intensified. Was it a collapse? Was it an overdose? Was it another controversy spiraling out of control in real time? The internet did what it always does. It filled the silence with theories, reactions, jokes, concern, and judgment. But once the hospitalization was confirmed, the tone changed. At least for a moment, the noise gave way to something more uncomfortable. The realization that behind the online persona was a real person who had just gone through something serious. Then Clavicular broke his silence himself. After being released, he posted a message saying he had just gotten home and described the experience as brutal. But it was one line in particular that stood out and spread quickly online. He wrote that all of the substances were just a cope trying to feel neurotypical while being in public, while also admitting that it obviously was not a real solution. That statement hit hard for a lot of people. Because whether you sympathize with him or not, it suggested something deeper than internet recklessness. It suggested anxiety, instability, and a private struggle colliding with a public persona that was never built to handle vulnerability. And maybe that is the most disturbing part of this entire story. Not just that an influencer ended up hospitalized. Not just that substances may have been involved, but that someone who built his entire image around being hyper-aware of his appearance, his social standing, and his public perception may have been privately relying on unhealthy coping mechanisms just to function in front of people. That creates a disturbing contrast. The man selling control may actually have been losing it. Still, this incident did not happen in isolation. It came at a moment when Clavicular was already surrounded by growing controversy from multiple directions. Just days earlier, he had made headlines after walking out of a 60 Minutes Australia interview. What should have been a major mainstream media moment quickly turned into another viral controversy when correspondent Adam Haggarty questioned him about whether he identifies as an incel and about his connection to Andrew Tate. Instead of calmly addressing the questions, Clavicular appeared to grow defensive. The exchange escalated, and rather than answer directly, he fired back with an insult, attempting to mock the interviewer by implying he was a cuckold. It was confrontational, awkward, and instantly shareable, exactly the kind of clip that fuels internet fame, while also deepening public backlash. For his supporters, it was another example of him refusing to submit to what they see as hostile media framing. For critics, it was something else entirely, a revealing moment that exposed the insecurity, hostility, and ideological baggage surrounding the persona he has built. And because Andrew Tate's name carries so much controversy of its own, any perceived alignment only intensified scrutiny. Suddenly, Clavicular was not just being discussed as an eccentric looksmaxxing influencer. He was being examined as part of a broader and increasingly controversial online ecosystem built around male resentment, aesthetic obsession, status anxiety, and antagonism toward criticism. That alone would have been enough to keep his name in the headlines. But it did not stop there. Because alongside the media storm, he has also reportedly been dealing with legal problems. He is reportedly under investigation by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission over a video that appeared to show him shooting an alligator. Even without a final legal outcome, the image alone is enough to inflame outrage. For many viewers, it fits a pattern they believe they have been seeing for some time now. A figure who does not just chase attention, but escalates his behavior to keep that attention alive. And then came another allegation that made things even worse. Reports say he was arrested last month in Florida on misdemeanor battery charges after authorities issued a warrant. According to reporting, investigators said the influencer provoked a fight between two women and then exploited the situation by posting it online. If that account is accurate, it paints a deeply troubling picture. Not of someone caught in random controversy, but of someone allegedly turning conflict into content and people into props for engagement. When all of these incidents are placed side by side, the hospitalization starts to look less like an isolated crisis and more like the breaking point in a much larger collapse. The Livestream cutoff, the suspected overdose, the defensive interview walkout, the questions about ideology and influence, the investigation, the arrest. The pattern is not just controversy, it is escalation. And escalation is often what destroys internet figures who mistake virality for invincibility. The tragedy of internet fame is that it rewards the performance of extremes long before it punishes the consequences. The louder, stranger, harsher, and more confrontational you become, the more attention you attract. And for a while, that attention can look like power. It can look like success. It can look like control. But underneath it, there is often something else growing: pressure, isolation, paranoia, insecurity, dependence, and the constant fear that if you stop performing, people will stop watching. That is what makes Clavicular's story so compelling and so unsettling. He represents a corner of the internet where appearance is ideology, where insecurity is monetized, where self-worth is measured in angles, bone structure, status, and shock value. And now, after this terrifying week, the entire thing feels less like a trend and more like a warning. Because what exactly are young viewers supposed to take from this? That extreme self-obsession leads to confidence. That pushing your body and mind to dangerous places is the price of becoming desirable. That humiliating interviews, legal drama, and public collapse are just part of the brand? Or does this week expose the truth that many people have been trying to say all along, that beneath the aesthetics, the posturing, and the bravado, there is often pain that has never really been addressed?